Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Alderman. Thank you very much. I apologize, before we open the meeting, I apologize for a couple of things. One, for my tardiness. I'm doing the best I can to get to a computer working remotely, and two, for my appearance. I think in 17 years, I've never come to a Board of Aldermen meeting absent a tie and a suit, but tonight is an exception, and so I apologize for that matter as well. But welcome, everyone. Happy New Year, and would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Amen.
Thank you very much. Again, welcome. Welcome to the Board of Aldermen meeting for the City of Town and Country, Monday, January 11th, 2021. Meeting's hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Allen. She's here. Alderman Bennegus.
Here.
Alderman Crouchy.
Here.
Alderman Holman.
Here.
Alderman Hughes.
Here.
Alderman Mortland.
Here.
Alderman Weasahan.
Here.
And Alderman Whitmire.
Here.
Mayor Dalton is presiding, and we do have a quorum via video conference.
Thank you. A couple more preliminary matters. This evening, unlike when I am at City Hall, where I can see everybody at one time, tonight's screen is bifurcated, and the person last speaking takes center stage, so it's a little bit difficult. Please bear with me and make yourself known if you desire to be recognized. I certainly do not mean to overlook anybody. It's just I got to the nearest computer I could get to, and we're doing the best we can. Also, I want to thank our President of the Board of Aldermen for filling in for me, particularly on short notice. I did not expect to miss the work session, but when circumstances prevented my attendance, he stepped up, and I thank him for it. The minutes from our meeting of December 14 have been distributed to, and I'm sure considered by the entire board. I'd now entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Frouch.
Second.
Alderman Mortland seconds the motion. Discussion. Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as written and distributed. Madam Clerk, question for you. I'm getting terrible feedback. Question for you. Did we have a facsimile or other distribution at the end of the year that needed to be ratified?
No, sir. Thank you for asking. So for the record, we'll just note there was no meeting held at the end of December. The last meeting of the year for the Board of Aldermen in 2020 was December 14th. So you guys have taken up all your business.
Terrific. We've typically done a meeting via facsimile for procedural reasons, but when our city clerk gives me something and it does not indicate that I'm supposed to do anything in addition, I should not question her distribution, and so that was poor judgment on my part just now, but so be it. She is right, I am wrong. We'll move on. We did note that those minutes were stand approved as written and distributed. Thank you. We're on the topic of hearing from citizens. Madam Clerk, do we have any indication from residents or other people with an interest in Town and Country wishing to express their opinion?
Not for this particular agenda item.
There will be items that you will bring to my attention as we hit them on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We're now on the topic of public hearings. We have a public hearing this evening. It's a public hearing to consider zoning code amendments related to text amendment procedures regarding section 405.290. Call that public, I'll declare that public hearing open and ask our city clerk to please enter any exhibits.
Exhibit number 1 is affidavit of publication of notice of hearing, published in the St. Louis County on December 21st, 2020. Exhibit number 2 is typewritten notice of hearing, posted at the Municipal Center on the city's website and sent via Notify Me. And exhibit number 3 is bill number 2101.
Thank you, ma'am. I understand that our city planner, Mr. Spencer, is making himself available this evening to answer any questions, but that he doesn't have a formal presentation. Mr. Spencer, are you out there?
I am here, sir.
Thank you. And did I get the position that you're assuming this evening in proper?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. The floor is now open for questions directed to Mr. Spencer. Seeing none. And I'm gonna indicate again, if you are seeking recognition, please bear with me and make your interest known. Seeing none again, any public comment, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Thank you. I declare that public hearing closed. We also have a public hearing this evening to consider zoning code amendments relating to signage, Chapter 420, and declare that public hearing open and ask our city clerk to please enter any exhibits with respect to this matter.
Exhibit number 1 is affidavit of publication of notice of hearing, published in the St. Louis County on December 21st, 2020. Exhibit number 2 is typewritten notice of hearing, posted at the Municipal Center on the city's website and sent via Notify Me. And exhibit number 3 is bill number 2102.
Thank you, ma'am. Our city planner is also standing available this evening to address this matter. And Mr. Spencer, do you have a formal presentation, or are you again making yourself available to answer questions?
I do have a presentation, sir, but if that's okay, I'd like to just give a broad overview for the benefit of the board. This is a big deal. This is a major overhaul of our sign code. A year and a half worth of work went into this. I'd like to thank Rob Seema, our chairman, Dennis Bolzina, planning commissioner, Ed Sluice, who's on the call tonight, our legal counsel, for being with us as part of the subcommittee process, and Alderman Frauci for helping land the plane at the Planning and Zoning Commission. There have been multiple attempts made to overhaul our sign code, and this is a long time coming. I've got a quick presentation just to give the high points, and then I'd like to receive any feedback. The staff understands that there's still some tweaks that need to be made and some changes, so I'd like to hear that, and then we can work together to bring this sign code to adoption. So let me share my screen. So in terms of background, the sign code, it was established as an independent code chapter in '89, and prior to that, it was part of our zoning code. It's only been amended 5 times in the previous 31 years. And as you may have seen from the legal memo that was distributed from our city attorney's office, legal opinion has changed in that time, and our sign code is in need of major amendments in order to be brought forward to the time and place that we're in now. In terms of major amendments, I want to look at or just touch on definitions, graphics, the process, general requirements, and districts, how we organize our sign code. Definitions, there was a broad review of our definitions. We spent many meetings at our subcommittee looking at our definitions in terms of content, content-based definitions, which our city's attorneys can address if there are questions regarding that. But we've added 25 additional definitions. We've amended 13, deleted 25, and only 16 were left unchanged. So there was a broad review of our definition, how we define signs. These are the state-of-the-art graphics that we currently have in our adopted code. We felt it was time to bring that forward, so staff created some new graphics. We also added pictures, because pictures are worth 1,000 words, and those may cost a little bit more money. Ashley, I apologize. From a codification standpoint, I think it's important for our businesses and our citizens to see what we intend with our sign code. So there'll be additional photographs and graphics. In terms of our process, we increased the fee from $75 to $100. The sign permit fee was not part of that major overhaul last year because it's specifically laid out in the sign code itself. So this is the opportunity to increase that fee, adjust it from 1989. The current sign code has an annual renewal requirement. We've eliminated that. That's not a tenable requirement with the staff that we have and hundreds of signs tracking annually. It's not something that's been done for many years, so we eliminated that. The revocation of permits was an aldermanic process that required a meeting. We've made that an administrative process for signs that are issued, sign permits issued mistakenly or under false pretense. That's something we can handle at the staff level. A big change in the current draft is sign variances. The current process is a public hearing review at the Board of Aldermen. That will change. Sign variances moving forward will be a Board of Adjustment process. We do have conditional signs in our code that will allow for context-based decisions on certain types of signs, and also certain situations like increasing letter heights, which I'll go into in a minute. So that will still remain within the planning and zoning and Board of Aldermen process. But moving forward, sign variances are going to have a very high burden and threshold for showing a hardship under the current draft. Unified sign plans. This is how commercial retail centers are regulated. They each have their own standalone sign plans. The current document does not have a great amount of detail, so we've added more subsections dealing with the purpose of sign plans, an application process that lays that out, and the materials to be submitted. General requirements, we've consolidated all our technical specifications, which have been updated with modern terminology into one section that deals with placement, obstructions, clearances, illumination. They're all in one more streamlined area. And we've eliminated maximum color requirements. And then in terms of the last two, expanded maximum letter heights and expressly prohibited digital signs. These two specific areas had the most discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission. In terms of digital signs, there's only one approved digital sign in the city, and that's the Lutheran Church on Clayton. That was approved via sign variance in 2012. There were very conservative limiting conditions with that digital sign, and when staff initially drafted the sign update, we included those conditions as digital sign regulations, included digital signs as a conditional sign that could receive special approval. At the subcommittee level, there was disagreement about whether or not that there was support for that. So they asked that the full Planning and Zoning Commission discuss it. And in the end, it was the belief of the Planning and Zoning Commission that we as Town and Country, we're not a city that really a digital sign fits. It's not really who we are. So we don't want to encourage that kind of sign through a conditional sign process. So digital signs are prohibited signs. Obviously, there is a sign variance process, but again, like I mentioned, Board of Adjustment, there's a high threshold, high burden showing a hardship. And then with letter heights, we're a unique community in that we established maximum letter heights. I could not find a pure city that has such a requirement. Most cities limit signs via letter heights via the dimensional requirements for signs, length, width. Some cities have minimum letter height requirements for safety purposes, but we have maximum letter heights. 12 inches for non-residential uses like schools or churches in residential districts, and 18 inches for all other office medical uses. There's a small number that can have legally up to 30 inches in a planned office park, but that's a very limited number of buildings. And just in the past 10 years, letter height variances have accounted for 30 plus appearances before the Board of Aldermen. And if you go back 31 years, it's well over 100, approaching 200 variances dealing with letter heights. Previously, there were a lot of letter height variances in commercial areas, but the unified sign plans corrected that. So these variances are for office buildings along 64, 270, 141, where you have a high speed and distances. So staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission looked at variance data, and based on the median sign variances granted, which along freeways is 33 inches. The recommendation was for 24 inches as a standard for non-residential office medical, and 36 inches if adjacent to major freeways. And if you have to go above that, it's a conditional use, and that will receive approval via review by P&Z and the Board of Aldermen. So there's a context-based decision there. It doesn't have to go to Board of Adjustment. That was a change at the very last meeting prior to this evening's meeting. But by increasing these letter heights, we acknowledge what we've been doing for the last 30 years, which is repeatedly granting sign variances for letter heights. And we're still letting the dimensional criteria control, because that's one thing we never changed, was our maximum sign area sizes for wall signs, ground signs. So you'll be limited ultimately by the size of the sign you can have. In terms of how we regulate signs, we created 4 major categories: our residential use in a residential major educational district, non-residential institutional use in a residential major educational district, and then we lump together our office, senior living, and medical districts, and then finally our commercial districts. So this chart, you can kind of see how it gets gradually more permissive as you go towards the commercial districts in terms of the types of signs that you can have. And that concludes my overview of our sign code. It's a lot to chew on. It's 40 plus pages of document. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the best I can. We have our legal counsel here, Steve Garrett and Ed Sluice, who was part of the process. Maybe can, if questions come up about why certain decisions were made from a legal standpoint, can answer those, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Very, very well done. If you'd stop sharing your screen now, it would help me. The material is very relevant. I can't see anybody. Thank you very much. As you began your remarks, I will echo them. This was a long, thorough, and thoughtful process. It was your role in it was extremely significant, and we are the work product is better by virtue of your leadership. Thank you. Same with Chairman Sema. Our legal counsel and I have discussed these issues, and other members of the board as well, for many, many years. And this, as you say, sir, is a long time coming. There is, next to law enforcement and public safety, there are few more important things than the planning and zoning ordinances and process to the city of Town and Country. It helps define us. And this offers certainty to residents and those that are doing business in our community and need the benefit of signage to promote their services to those they serve, including the members of our city. So thank you very, very much. I'll also echo your recognition of Chairman Sema, Commissioner Bolazina, Alderman Fauci, and others on the Planning and Zoning Committee, most notably the task force. With that, the floor is open for inquiry. Inquiry of Mr. Spencer.
Mr. Mayor, this is Jeff Whitmire.
Hello, Alderman. You're recognized. Please proceed.
Mr. Spencer, wondered if you could, that last chart you had some letters on it. I didn't see a coding scheme on the chart. Can you just tell us what those letters were?
The P was for permitted, C was for conditional.
Thank you.
That was Alderman, that's a very good question and a good clarification. That was an extensive discussion in the town square area of what would be permitted and what would be conditional and require further approval of the commission and the Board of Aldermen. Further inquiry. Alderman Fauci was next seeking recognition, then Alderman Weezahan, I'll call on you. Please proceed.
Thank you. First, I want to just say, Ryan, fantastic job. You boiled an incredible amount of work product down to in a very productive presentation. So thank you for that. If you could just for one moment, because I know this is a question that has come up with a number of folks. There was a considerable amount of time spent with both the subcommittee and the commission talking about fluttering signs. And there were some legal changes. The flags became, any flag became a fluttering sign. And I know that there's some discussion about whether or not we can regulate temporary commercial fluttering signs. So think of the big giant blow up man and the small banners that you see sometimes at gas stations and what have you. And I know there's some talk about that and potentially an amendment coming forward that I've discussed with Bob Shelton as recently as this afternoon. So maybe we could get just a quick definition or understanding of fluttering signs, because I think they are a little bit confusing based on some of the legal casework that has come through.
Sure. I'll speak quickly, and then I'm going to get out of the way and let Mr. Slews or Mr. Garrett chime in. Basically, we've eliminated all content-based signage from this code, so you won't see terms like real estate sign or address sign or theater sign or anything like that. So we had to create a term to encapsulate flags, but that also encapsulates different other types of banners and so forth. And I think there is a path forward to splitting it out into permanent versus temporary and better defining it. I think that's maybe where we fell short, is we could define it a little more strongly without jumping into the content area, which has been problematic for cities in terms of lawsuits and so forth. That's what we're trying to avoid. And with that, I'd kind of ask that maybe if Mr. Slews and Mr. Garrett could touch on why that's important.
Sure. The fluttering sign issue was definitely a difficult one for us and spent a lot of time on. The issues kind of originated, or I guess were heightened by a relatively recent decision involving the city of Belnor. And in that case, what had happened was the code allowed, everyone gets a flag and everyone gets a sign. And then when they talked about the flags were for institutional uses. And so the discussion became, well, that's really a content-based issue if you're saying what you can have on the flag. Belnor argued, no, institution is as broad as you need it to be, and it could cover everything. And ultimately the court rejected that argument. And so that's where first flags have always been kind of a difficult thing to deal with. You're probably all aware of the flag code as well, which is federal regulation that places a lot of content-based regulations, really. If you fly the American flag, there are certain things you have to adhere to in terms of its size relative to other flag size. And obviously for us to it's a rabbit hole we can fall down very easily. And so what we were trying to do is create a more generic definition that would cover a flag, but making it clear that we're not dictating that you have to fly what traditionally would be considered a flag. The other side to the fluttering sign issue that was difficult to deal with is the more temporary nature one. And in that Belnor case, what happened was the court didn't just look at this narrow issue of flag and sign. Once they were looking, they looked at everything. And one of the issues that was used to show why this regulation was overbroad is if you read that sign code, and pretty much probably any sign code word for word, you wouldn't be able to have a birthday balloon. You wouldn't be able to have a go card sign or anything like that. And they said that's too broad. And I think there's always been a traditional notion, particularly in zoning areas, of selective enforcement or common sense enforcement, right? If Ryan got a phone call from someone saying, hey, my next door neighbor has a balloon up, they just put up an hour ago, Ryan maybe goes by the next day and asks them to take it down. Well, the court in the Belnor decision said, we don't trust the government telling us they'll do this responsibly. We're looking at this and this is overbroad. So what we have to do is find a way to not ban, the birthday balloons, but try not to open the door to, the inflatable tube men waving and things like that in the middle of residential areas. And I think that's, Ryan, Steve and I had some discussions, and Alderman Frauci, I think probably the same thing that you discussed with Mr. Shelton about we can definitely do a better job of kind of, breaking out those two things. What is it the city wants in a permanent fluttering sign, which is probably going to be used for things such as a flag when you get to, the kind of construction quality that needs to be if it's something that's going to be out permanently, versus a birthday balloon or a welcome home banner that's meant to be very transient in nature. And so one of the things we discussed to try and eliminate the concern with, the inflatable tube person is the mechanisms allowed for fluttering signs. If you don't allow artificial means, i.e. some kind of wind blower, then someone can't really have that in a residential area. So that's definitely somewhere we want to come back and clarify, but that's really, they were the goals we were trying to achieve, and I definitely think there's room for improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further
Thank you
inquiry,
very much.
further inquiry of Mr. Spencer. Alderman Weezahan.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that we have as Mr. Spencer stated, that we have a high standard and threshold for variances. I was just curious how recently we approved a sign code or a sign for a business that they needed to meet their corporate standards, and it didn't meet our code. And I was just curious how how we would go about. Obviously, it's a hypothetical, but kind of how to approach that with this, with the changes to the sign code.
Yeah, great question.
With respect to letter heights, which are, like I said, the typical, and logos are included as letters. We've established that as conditional, so we've allowed the basic process that's currently in place to continue, except now the planning and zoning will make a recommendation and then the Board of Aldermen will approve. So they'll be able to move forward, hopefully, if it makes sense in the context that it's located, with the sign that they need. And I'm also referring to businesses that aren't in a unified sign plan. So they're not in a retail center. So office uses along freeways would be in this kind of situation. But if it's another aspect of the sign, like if they're allowed a 40 square foot sign, but they want an 80 square foot sign, well, then they have to show a hardship, a reason to vary from the code that amount, or to have a double-sided sign, maybe where they're not allowed to have a double-sided sign. But we have allowed through the letter heights to allow a reasonable process, if you will, to play out with our Board of Aldermen.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. And I will remind the board that we are in a public hearing on our proposed ordinance amendments. And so I would caution you against getting too far into hypotheticals, because we don't want this sort of a recorded public record to be binding upon the board's consideration in any respect in the future. I know that's no one's intent. I just want to remind you that that's the nature of the discussion that we are in right now. Further inquiry? Thank you. Seeing none. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comments to enter?
No, sir, not for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, I declare the public hearing closed. We are now on the agenda item of appointments, and I'm announcing for your consideration over the next 2 weeks' time the appointment of Janine Fabic to the Ways and Means Commission, filling an at-large spot, and Todd Staley to the Public Works Commission, again taking an at-large position, and Pete Egebrecht to the police, fire, and EMS from a Ward 2 position. These individuals were brought to me by the respective chairs. I know all three individuals, have high respect for them. And if you look at the materials that our city clerk distributed, you'll quickly conclude, I believe, like I did, that they are very well qualified and will bring great, they will all be good additions to each of the respective commissions. I'll look for a motion and support in 2 weeks' time. We're now on the topic of communications and reports. I have one that is not a report, but is a recognition of something that is tragic, something that is not flattering of us as a nation in any respect. And I'm not talking about the substance of any exchanges that have been going on nationally, but I am talking about the way in which people expressed their opinion at the United States Capitol recently. Whatever your politics are, this is not the way to express an interest in a matter. And we have brought, in my opinion, disrespect on our public institution and the way we do business as a democracy. People have lost their lives, and there's investigations and ultimately prosecutions ongoing. And the rule of law, if it stands for anything, it stands for that this is not how we conduct ourselves as members of a decent and civilized societies. Our flags, per federal order, are at half-staff in recognition of the loss of life, and I'm just bringing it to everyone's attention, not as a matter of political expression, but rather as one of process. And this is not how we distinguish ourselves. And in fact, I believe we've embarrassed ourselves as a nation. I have no further reports. The floor is open. Alderman Fauci. And again, I apologize if I'm not calling you in perfect order, but I'm doing the best I can with my limited screen.
Well, I certainly mirror those thoughts. And I would also like to announce that for those of you who intended to spend January 20th on a Zoom call watching the planning and zoning meeting, you may want to alter your calendar as it has been canceled for lack of agenda items. So something else is going to have to fill that spot.
Thank you. Further reports. Alderman Whitmire.
Mr. Mayor, on January 4th, the Conservation Commission met, and we spent most of our time talking about our priorities for 2021, and those are recorded in our minutes from that meeting.
Alderman, I applaud you for doing that. Each of our commissions are charged with the responsibility to set priorities for the year, and I'm glad the Conservation Commission has always been diligent in setting their priorities. In fact, I've participated in some of those meetings, so thank you for that. Further reports. Alderman Hughes.
The next meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission will be this Wednesday, the 13th, from 6:30 to 7:30 via Zoom. Hopefully we'll have a quorum. I'm going to contact everyone and just make sure that they're able to participate. The installation of the statue Depth of Form is this Wednesday at 1 o'clock at Longview, if anyone would like to attend. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
Thank
and
you.
We're going to set our priorities for the year too, hopefully.
Appreciate that. Alderman Mortland.
Yes, we have the Police, Fire, and EMS Commission is going to be meeting this month on January 26th at 4:30. It will be via Zoom and it's posted on the website. Also, we have the Fire and EMS Task Force. They'll be meeting on Thursday, the 21st at 8 a.m. to 9:30. It'll be posted on the website. And then lastly, the Public Infrastructure Task Force has presented its findings to the board, and they will be posted on the website.
Thank you. You have a full plate, Alderman, and I appreciate your leadership. Further reports. Alderman Holman.
Thank you, Mayor. In observation of MLK Day on Monday, January 18th, we have moved our Public Works Commission meeting to Tuesday, January 19th at 4:30. The meeting will be via Zoom, and that is also posted on our city website. Thank you.
Thank you. Further reports. Alderman Weezahan.
We've also, for Parks and Trails, we've also moved our meeting to January 19th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom.
Thank you, sir. Further reports. Mr. Shelton, I believe you've got something for us this evening.
Mayor Dalton, I'm so sorry. If I could interrupt first, I have Alderman Allen and Alderman Bennegas both seeking recognition as well.
Oh, okay. My apologies. I told you I have a poor screen this evening, and there's proof of it. Alderman Allen, please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. No problem. The Ways and Means Commission will meet this coming Friday, the 15th, 8:30 on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Alderman Bennegas.
He's on
Alderman
mute.
Bennegas, you out there? Madam Clerk, I'm not seeing Alderman Bennegas.
He's on the call. I think he's trying to unmute himself right now.
There, maybe I was successful.
There you are, sir.
Thank
Please
you.
proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologize for the delay. As many of you know, there's a petition campaign for a Missouri state-led performance audit for Town and Country. And as president, I believe it's my responsibility to make a public statement regarding that petition. And up to now, I've been exercising caution and restraint and patience. But I believe the audit is unwarranted from a need standpoint and unjustified from a cost perspective. I believe the motivation for this petition campaign is entirely political. It is singularly focused on discrediting you, Mayor, and disparaging your administration. This belief is supported by the fact that the petition campaign organizer, Lindsay Butler, has failed in 2 other attempts to attack the mayor and the city government with the Missouri Ethics Commission and the Missouri Attorney General's office, and both those have been dismissed. This audit is just another attempt to cloak in right-sounding words like effective and efficient. Apart from my views as an individual, this petition campaign is misdirected. There's no reasonable person that rejects the principle of striving for more effective and efficient means of getting things done, particularly the work of government. If there's a need for inspecting work process in our city government, that should have been brought to the board for open public discussion, and that didn't happen with this campaign. In fact, it totally circumvented and ignored the board in open meeting. The suggestion of a performance audit was raised more than 2 years ago, and it was rejected by the board and by its author, Matt Rauter, for the reason in part because of the position of Public Works Director was open, and that search should not be obstructed by the conduct of an audit when the office most impacted was vacant. That same situation exists now. Good management practices dictate that the individuals responsible for implementing the recommendations of an audit be in place at the time of the audit. So there is the logical and essential element of ownership in the implementation. So these are just some brief comments. I'm entering for the record a 2.5-page document that further outlines why this audit petition is unwarranted. And at our next meeting, Mayor, I'll be introducing a resolution that specifically addresses why this audit petition is unjustified and unwarranted. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Further reports. Now, Mr. Shelton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. just to update the board on our staff-initiated performance measurement implementation, the Public Works Department has sent out surveys to our 12 most recent public works project, the impacted property owners. And we have already begun to receive some valuable input. So this will be one measurement tool we use as part of our performance management techniques.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Shelton. I believe you have one of the finest, if not the finest, professional teams in the entire region, and your internal scrutiny and analysis are only making that team better and further serving the citizens of town and country. Thank you for your leadership, sir. Further reports. Seeing none, we'll move to unfinished business. The first item is Bill number 20-74. It's co-sponsored by Alderman Holman and Alderman Hughes. Without objection, would our city clerk please read that bill for the second time?
Bill number 20-74 is an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement amendment with St. Louis County regarding the Clayton Road and Ballast Road intersection improvements.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Alderman Allen moves approval. Does that Katie second?
Alderman Holman is seconding.
There we go. I'm sorry. I was having technical difficulty.
We're all doing the best we can tonight. Thank you, ma'am. This motion been seconded by Alderman Holman. Discussion.
Alderman Hughes.
Alderman, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. The floor, you are recognized. Please proceed.
I had asked at the work session if there's urgency to approving this ordinance, because apparently there have been some new documents that have come forward, and I was not around, not in office when all of this kind of came to pass. So I'm just wondering if the board feels that we need to perhaps move to continue this so that we can all take a look at the documents and get a timeline.
Thank you. Further discussion. Mr. Shelton, do you have any information regarding Alderman Hughes's inquiry as to the urgency of the matter? Are we under a timeline, sir?
Mayor, we are not under a urgency. However, I have reviewed the emails, and I do not know that the emails that reflect the status and the ongoing iterations of the project impact this ordinance, which enters into a mutual agreement with St. Louis County to terminate this particular project. As all of the board is aware, the project dates back to 2013,
Right.
when the county, in order to gain, for the city to gain a easement, the county required the city to take on a project to do ADA compliance, ramps, signal improvements, roadway improvements, all in the county right of way. And the city performed all that work, obtained all the easements. One key easement, the right of way with the Scott properties at the northwest corner. We offered appraised value. We worked continually with that property owner for alternative parking arrangements, and they were not able to be reached. The board then authorized condemnation. The property owner was requesting $1 million for temporary and permanent easements. Again, the city's appraisal was $156,000, certified appraisal. The commissioners came back at $360,000+, more than double the appraised amount. At that point, both the city and the county mutually agreed not to go forward with this project. So this just clarifies that. It clarifies that the county pays the city the $22,000, and it allows us to move forward. I do not know what continuing it would do at this point. I think we need to move forward at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. That
I
certainly
appreciate the
Yeah, Alderman Hughes, good inquiry. And it clarifies a lot of misinformation that seems to be circulating for a variety of reasons. But be that as it may, it appears those are the facts. The one question I would have, sir, is the document that is being proposed. Was that drafted by the county or was that our document? And can you clarify that for me and perhaps others on the board?
Yes, Mayor. That was drafted by the county with consultation with our city attorney, Mr. Garrett. We had a couple of modifications, which the county agreed to, and that is the document that's before you. But it was initiated by the county.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe you have something that you want to read into the record, and I'll open Alderman Holman seeking recognition first.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add something before you turn it over to Mrs. McNamara, is that I called county today around 4:30, and I was surprised when they picked up the phone. So go them, they were working overtime. I contacted Joe Kalesa, who was a PE that our city worked with. And I took that recommendation from the email that came in tonight to challenging our aldermen to confirm that county was aware of this agreement and stands behind it. And Joe confirmed that, yes, they absolutely agree with it. They do not believe any nefarious actions took place. This project needs to be nullified. So if any projects were to move forward at that intersection, this project needs to be put to bed. Okay. So I'm ready to proceed with this vote tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, and I appreciate your efforts to gain clarity on what shouldn't be that difficult to comprehend. Further discussion. Now, Madam Clerk, I believe you have something for purposes of the record.
Yes, sir. I have one email that will be entered into the record. It was previously distributed to the aldermen, so you'll all have it in your email as well. But it was requested that I read it aloud. It's from Lindsay Butler. It states, "Dear Board of Aldermen."
Excuse me, Mayor.
Mayor, I object.
I'm going to, Alderman Allen, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to defer to and recognize our president first. Alderman Venegas.
I'll defer to Alderman Allen, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Alderman Allen, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I believe recently we have not been reading these letters aloud. They have been put in the public record, so I'm going to oppose this action and beg that we be consistent with the way we treat everyone in the city.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion. Alderman Fauci seeking recognition.
So I'm fine with reading it or not reading it, but I will say that we have read other letters. And so if we're going to be consistent, I think we should then really be consistent because there are other letters that have been read. So I just want to clarify that for the record.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Further comment, Alderman Hughes.
I would agree that we have read documents into the record, letters, especially when someone was proposed to serve on a commission, which I was quite surprised that the letter of endorsement was read out loud. So I think whatever we do, we need to be consistent with that. Either we do or we don't.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion. Okay, there's apparently the author of this letter feels so passionate about this and related issues that I'm going to ask our city clerk to read it into the record and allow that. Look, I mean, everyone's seen it, everyone's heard it, everyone's probably heard too much about it. But if it makes this person happy to have it read aloud, I think we can extend that courtesy at this point in time. Please proceed, Ms. McNamara.
Dear Board of Aldermen, this evening the board will be voting on agenda item number 1 to enter into an amended agreement with St. Louis County, where the City of Town and Country will expect county to reimburse them about $22,000, and TNC will pay back about $261,000 in grant funds because of the failed Clayton and Ballast intersection upgrades and associated sidewalk, which the city asked to be built. Please ask prior to voting if the county has agreed to these terms. It states very clearly in the email from county that they were concerned with TC not holding up our end of an agreement. According to the documents discovered during a sunshine law request of county's records, which have been turned over to all of you previously, this project was delayed due to TNC requesting handling of the easement instead of allowing county to do so. Additionally, the cost overruns for engineering and easements were known to the city a long time prior to the board members being told that the project was not moving forward. In fact, the city, not the county, made the decision to abandon this project even after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on easements and legal bills, which can be seen repeatedly in the county's sent emails. This project is another reason for an independent state performance audit, and I would encourage you to reach out to county prior to voting this evening. I am attaching the email that I sent previously to you for the record and will be sending the remainder of the records to City Hall for your review and public disclosure. This isn't a comfortable conversation, but in light of the additional information that you have at your disposal, you may wish to look at all of the docs prior to making a decision. Thank you, Lindsay Butler. And that will be attached to the minutes.
Thank you, ma'am. As I said, I believe that our discussion this evening has pretty much debunked all of the allegations in that correspondence, and that people had seen it before and now they've heard it aloud. Further discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor,
Here.
I'm sorry. Maybe you can't see me.
Alderman Holman.
I'm sorry. So I have a lot more notes from my conversation with county today, and I just picked out a couple of the highlights. But after hearing the letter again, there are some additional comments that the county engineer stated that I just like to share for the record. One is that by no means was this a cut and dry project. That I read the email to the gentleman word for word. There were some statements that he did not believe were true, and that county with city wanted to nullify this project together. It wasn't an independent decision. And so I encourage our aldermen to give county a call. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you for your diligence in pursuing the allegations and correcting the record this evening. Further discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Holman. She's both
Vote.
sides. Alderman Bennegus.
Aye.
Alderman Weezahan.
Aye.
Alderman Crouchy.
Aye.
Alderman Mortland.
Aye.
Alderman Allen.
Aye.
Alderman Hughes.
Aye.
And Alderman Whitmire.
Aye.
The bill passes unanimously and becomes ordinance number 4414.
Thank you. We're on item number 2. It's Bill 20-75, sponsored by Alderman Allen. Without objection, would our city clerk please read that bill for the second time?
Bill number 2075 is an ordinance accepting the proposal of Danziger and Markoff LLP to provide successive GASB 75 actuarial services or other post-employment benefits for retirees.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Alderman Allen moves approval. Does that gain a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hughes. Thank you, ma'am. Discussion. I believe, Mr. Shelton, you've got some information for us.
Just briefly, Mayor, nothing to impact the legislation, but just to bring the board up to date. This is an audit of the performance of the city and our retiree benefits. So this is an audit, and it will analyze the city's performance as it relates to these benefits.
Thank you, sir. Very helpful. Further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Allen,
Aye.
Alderman Fauci,
Aye.
Alderman Whitmire,
Aye.
Alderman Hughes,
Aye.
Alderman Mortland,
Aye.
Alderman Bennigan,
Aye.
Alderman Holman,
Aye.
and Alderman Weasahan.
Aye.
The bill passes unanimously and becomes ordinance number 4415.
Thank you. We are on the topic of new business. It's bill number 21-01. Bill of the year. And I believe, Alderman Bennigan, you'll correct me where I go astray, but I was on the work session for most of it, and I believe this is being sponsored by the board as a whole.
Correct, Mayor.
Thank you. Without objection, would the city clerk please read that bill for the first time?
Bill number 2101 is an ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 405, the zoning regulations of the Town and Country Municipal Code, specifically by the amendment of Section 405.290 regarding proposed text amendments.
Thank you. Bill 21-01 will be continued to the meeting of Monday, January 25, for a second reading and consideration. Item number 4 on our agenda is bill number 2021-02. It is likewise sponsored by the board as a whole, and without objection, would our city clerk please read that bill for the first time?
Bill number 2102 is an ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 420, sign regulations of the Town and Country Municipal Code by replacing the language.
Thank you. Bill 21-02 is continued to the meeting of Monday, January 25 for a second reading and consideration. Item number 5 is the approval of a purchase order. It's from Custom Signals for 3 laser speed guns in the amount of $6,450. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Alderman Fauci moves approval. Does that-
Second.
Alderman Mortland seconds the motion.
Alderman,
Seeing none, all the opinion that motion should prevail, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any contrary opinion, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. We're on item number 6. It's Bill 21-03. That is to be sponsored by
Alderman Allen,
Alderman Allen. Thank you. Without objection, would the city clerk please read that bill for the first time?
Bill number 2103 is an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a consultant agreement with Tina Sharmelin for supplemental accounting services for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you. Bill 21-03 is continued to the meeting of Monday, January 25 for a second reading and consideration. Item number 7 is Bill 21-04. That is to be sponsored by
The board as a whole.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Without objection, would city clerk please read the bill for the first time?
Bill number 2104 is an ordinance amending the Town and Country Municipal Code by the amendment or deletion of certain sections that relate to the positions of city engineer and director of public works.
Thank you. Bill 21-04 is continued to the meeting of Monday, January 25 for a second reading and consideration. Item number 8 is Bill 21-05. That is to be sponsored by the board as a whole. And without objection, would the city clerk please read the bill for the first time?
Bill number 2105 is an ordinance amending the Town and Country Municipal Code by the amendment or deletion of certain sections that relate to the positions of city treasurer and finance director.
Thank you. Bill 21-05 is continued to the meeting of Monday, January 25 for second reading and consideration. Item number 9 on our agenda is the warrant list in the amount of $1,234,898.84. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Alderman Allen moves approval. Does it gain a second?
Second.
Portland seconds the motion. Discussion. Seeing Alderman Hughes seeking recognition.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Thank
On
you.
page 7, it talks about a tribute tree at $47.28. And on page 9, it talks about a tribute tree, $800. What is the cost per planting for a tribute tree?
Mr. Shelton or Ms. Nixon? Or is Ms. Nixon on the call?
I would defer to Ms. Nixon, please.
You're
Thank
a
you.
wise man. Ms. Nixon, you out there?
I am. Are you asking how much it costs to plant the tree?
Yeah, what's the cost per, yes, what's the cost per planting? Because I'm looking at 47.28 versus 800, so.
Right. So we plant the trees internally. Usually our city staff plants the trees, so we don't pay for the planting cost.
So staff,
And that $47 is the plaque that goes along with the tree.
the plaque, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Alderman Hughes. And let the record reflect that if anyone has any doubt whether Alderman Hughes reads the warrant list and finds a $47 item, that doubt should be dismissed. That's a good inquiry. Fair enough.
I don't do our taxes, I pay someone to do that.
And thank you, Ms. Nixon, for the clarification. Further discussion regarding the warrant list. Seeing none.
Yep.
Hand up, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Please proceed.
I know we've discussed it previously. I was just saying if there's an update on with regard to the sewer bill at Town Square. I know there was some changes that were going to be made, and just seeing where that progress was.
I am prepared to take that, Mayor.
Okay, good.
As you will notice, the water bill has significantly decreased. We have that all under control. The sewer bill then will reflect our water usage, but MSD will have to take several readings until they adjust our billing on that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Thank you, Alderman Weezahan. Further inquiry? Seeing none, all of the opinion that motion should prevail, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any of the contrary opinion, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Alderman Hughes moves, all seconded by Alderman Weezahan. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any to the contrary opinion, nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Be safe out there.